today. I'm Scott Posey. I'm the Director of Communications for ThyssenKrupp Steel. There's a ThyssenKrupp Steel and there's a ThyssenKrupp Stainless. And Mary Mullins, who's my counterpart at ThyssenKrupp Stainless, couldn't be here this morning, so she has graciously allowed me to speak for both of us. I am not German, though I may have that European flair. I do get asked that. I'm actually from Andalusia, Alabama. And I knew Mark when I was growing up, and I didn't recognize him here this morning. So it's interesting how you have German companies, and growing up in Andalusia, I certainly know the importance of, I grew up in, obviously Andalusia, I think the population is about 8 or 9,000 people. So I recognize the importance of large industry to smaller communities and to the growth of smaller communities. And certainly Power South has been, ABC when I was growing up, has been an important part of the economy there in Andalusia. Jesse asked that we start off with a little bit of our history. Part of that's the regional history, and part of that's difficult for me because we're building that. We're working on that right now, very heavily. About 2 years ago, it'll be 2 years this November 2nd, we had our groundbreaking on our site. So we'll be celebrating 2 years since that, and then next year, ThyssenKrupp, our parent company, will be celebrating 200 years of steelmaking in Europe. So ThyssenKrupp, before they merged in 1999, two companies, Thyssen and Krupp, the two oldest steel companies in Germany, merged and have been producing high-quality steel in Europe for a very long period of time. Most of you are probably familiar on how we got here, but just as a brief overview of how that happened. ThyssenKrupp, who's been operating in Germany, decided they wanted to expand their operations into North America and in the national market. So began looking for sites in the United States to do that. That was narrowed down to roughly 67 sites in the southeastern United States. We knew we wanted to be in the southeastern United States, mainly because manufacturing sectors are trending to the southern United States, out from the northeast. Automotive, our customers' base would be automotive, pipe and tube, service centers, construction, and a lot of that industry has been trending for a while into the southern United States, certainly into places like Alabama and Mississippi as it relates to automotive. We needed a place that had good logistics, a place where we could find people that were hireable, that had good work ethic and good background, and we also needed a place where the partnerships were strong. And I want to cover off a little bit about that in a minute because I think that's very pertinent to what we're all talking about here today. Eventually that was narrowed down between Louisiana and Alabama, and then the scale tipped toward Alabama, and fortunately for me, and I feel like probably most everyone in the room will feel that ThyssenKrupp chose Alabama to make its home. So ThyssenKrupp Steel USA is very new. We are 2 years old, and for the past 2 years we have been, for the first year after groundbreaking, we moved an incredible amount of dirt. And our site is 3,600 acres. Our footprint on that site is a little bit less than half, at about 1,500 acres. So we've moved about 10 million cubic yards of dirt. We have put in the ground over 67,000 pilings for our foundations. If you laid those pilings end to end, they would stretch from Mobile to Houston. We have started pouring the foundations for our facilities that when they're completed, we'll have 7 million square feet under roof. On the carbon steel side, we have a hot strip mill, a cold rolling mill, a hot dip, 4 hot dip galvanizing lines, and then on the stainless side, there's a cold rolling mill and a melt shop. We are up now at about 300 on the carbon steel side. We have about 377 employees, and on the stainless side there are about 177. So about almost 600 between the both of us, and we are hiring. To answer some of the questions that I know that I get usually when I speak to groups, and that is, how has the economy affected our project? How has it affected our hiring? We're very aggressively hiring, and that number continues to grow. Between now and January, on the carbon steel side, we will increase our number. We'll double in size to with another 400 employees, and that number will continue until we're up and operational. And when we are on both sides, we'll have about 2,700 employees that will help us operate, and that we'll work with to operate at this facility. When we're up and running, we will produce, have the capability of producing 5.2 million tons of coiled steel strip. We have a project in Brazil that is under construction, and it will be completed in mid next year, in mid 2010. When that facility is completed, it will actually provide us the steel slabs that we will process into coils. So on the carbon steel side, we will not be producing slabs here. We'll be getting our slabs from Brazil. That project is a $6.5 billion project. Ours started off as a $3.7 billion project, and now that number has been raised to $4.2 billion in direct investment. And then if you add the capitalized interest, that number is actually about $4.6 billion. So between the two, you can see that ThyssenKrupp has over $10 billion in capital outlay, and some might say it was not the very best time to do that. However, the steel market in the United States has suffered just like every other industry has suffered. The price of steel is at its lowest drop from the highs of just a little over a year ago. Some of the highest prices in the steel industry a little over a year ago dropped to its lowest point over 60%. And so that demand was a global demand. So there are lots of challenges in the market. And another question we get asked is, how is this affecting our project? Has it changed ThyssenKrupp's mind about building this facility? And to answer that, you would say, well, $4.6 billion is not an investment you would make for a short-term return. We're looking very much down the road. We expect that this facility will be employing people and will be manufacturing and processing steel coils for generations to come. So our strategy was a very long-term, forward-thinking strategy. And do we have the belief that the steel markets will return? And we do. And do we have the belief that they will continue to grow in the NAFTA region? And we do. ThyssenKrupp, in terms of revenue, is the 5th largest steel company in the world. In terms of production, it's about 12 or 13 in the world. The reason for that is that we have a niche market where we go after, number one, we look for long-term customers with long-term relationships, which has been really beneficial to us in this downturn of the economy, because unlike other companies, a lot of our contracts are based on the long term, so when the market goes down, having those contracts in place is very helpful to us. And because of that, we have, while we are having some challenges like other steel companies, ours, there are other companies who have more challenges than we do at this point. The other thing is that we have focused on a niche market of high quality, high value steel, specifically in the automotive industry and in the pipe and tube industry. And because of that, we can command some higher prices than other steel companies can for, say, commodity steel. So that has worked out well and I think those numbers show that in terms of 5th in terms of revenue, and this was in the last fiscal year, and 12 or 13 in terms of output globally, that has been beneficial to us. We are, as I said, we're continuing to hire. We expect that of the 2,700 employees that we'll have fully operational, a vast majority of those will be from Alabama, North Mississippi, Northwest Florida. We don't have the demographics yet because they're not all hired, but as we look at our plans and as we can see where a lot of our interested applicants are coming from, the people who are being hired, we expect that to be the case. So while we have German parents